All right, everybody, welcome back. So in part B, we're going to actually evaluate logarithmic expressions. So our job is to figure out what this stuff is equal to. And you can see here that these expressions now are missing the equal sign. So the very first thing we're going to do is realize that we can make this an equation. We're simply allowed on 43 to say, well, I want to know what that whole thing is equal to. So if I say, all right, well, that's going to be equal to a number, log base 6 of 6, that's equal to x, and I want to solve this equation for x. The same thing on 44. We're just thinking of it like that. It's not really an equation, but it's the same idea. The reason being is that you guys can't evaluate log base 6 of 6. You can't look at this and evaluate it without understanding that the log is the inverse of an exponent. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert this to exponential. So here's my base, and here's where I swap the numbers. In 44, here's my base, and here's me swapping the numbers. And the reason is that now you guys can solve this because you know your rules for exponents. You're not really going to do a whole lot with this. We're simply going to look at this and figure it out. What power do I have to take 6 to in order to get 6? Well, it turns out that 6 to the first power is 6. In 44, 4 to the what power would give me 64? Well, it would be 4 times 4 is 8, times 4 is 16, times 4 is my 64. So you can see I'm simply figuring out what power do I take these to, and that's what a log's asking. That's what it's saying. Log, what power can I raise the base to get this number? We're just rewriting it so it's a little simpler to see. When we get down to something like 45, this is asking 2 to the x equals 64. So we can actually rewrite that like that, and then we're asking ourselves 2 to the what power is 64. There's no real easy way to go around these. It's simply figuring it out. And I get that it's 2 to the 6th. I'm not doing anything other than simply doing 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 and counting up how many times it takes me to get to 64. And that's really all we're looking at here. When I get down to 47, though, you can see now this is going to be a little harder because I'm asking 3 to the what power is 1 over 27. And that's not going to, there's not going to be anything that gives you 1 over 27 until you remember your inverse rules. That 1 over 27 was probably 3 to some power, but it was a negative power. And yeah, it turns out that 3 to the negative 3 will give you that 1 over 27 because 3 cubed is 27, and then 3 to the negative cube will flip it and make it 1 over 27. And that's really what you want to remember as far as the fractions go. Now, sometimes it's also easier. Let's look at 49. To not do that, but rather rewrite this and figure out, all right, 2 to the what power would have given me 16. It's really the same line of thinking. I'm just writing it a little differently. And I'm remembering that 2 to the negative 4 was equal to 16. But when I rewrite it like this, well, now I can kind of cancel these out. And that's really how we're thinking about this, is that we're canceling out the bases. But as far as evaluating a log goes, that's really what you're doing here. You're simply rewriting it in exponential form and then evaluating that exponential form. So the whole point of the first section was that you can easily recognize what a logarithm is asking of you. And then in this section, we're using that to actually convert and evaluate them. What we're going to do on the third section is actually evaluate some logs, but in the form of an equation. It's not going to be too hard in this section of videos, but we really want a firm understanding of this because later on down the line, we're going to ask you to do some more complicated stuff with this. But for right now, again, we're simply practicing, memorizing the conversion formula, and then practicing here being able to evaluate simple logs. So go ahead and take a moment, run through these, check your answers. If you need any help, feel free. And then once we're ready, we've got one more video on solving equations. Good luck.